Welcome back to A Man in a Sea of Lies. And some things when you listen to our media, to the radio, and watch stuff on YouTube and on television, as far as our legacy media, it's a gift that just keeps on giving. One of the matches made in heaven. Heaven is, on John Moore's show on 10:10 in the morning. Scott Reid was on again, some sort of a regular appearance, I guess, on Wednesdays. And he, of course, he's this guy. He's incredible. Like, he's foaming at the mouth. I really believe, like, he's immersed in this hatred towards Donald Trump and the Americans so much that he can't think straight anymore. And they were talking about Trump's visit to China, of course, and the stuff they're talking about, and they're patting each other on the back all the time. But do they really read anything else or watch anything else at their own network? So the whole thing is, that the Chinese are so smart, and Trump brought his two mouth breathing sons to cut some sort of deals, and that sort of language. And Trump is so stupid. Goldfish brain is the terminology that they used. And the Chinese are so smart, and they're gonna play Donald Trump as like a fiddle. This is, of course, nonsense. Surely Trump went to China for a reason. They want to cut some sort of a deal, and that's got probably a lot to do with the Iran situation. Sure, but to say that Chinese all have all the leverage and Donald Trump doesn't have any leverage at all, he's just going to come down on his knees and beg. It's idiotic. Surely both sides have leverage, and not to recognize that is kind of stupid. I think um, you know Chinese need access to the U.S. market to sell their manufactured goods. Chinese need Iranian oil that Trump is blocking right now, and the Americans need the Chinese also, for first of all, to help with broker some sort of a deal with Iran. I mean, they Chinese have leverage in Iran, but just play it one side only. The whole thing is just, I don't know. And Scott Reid is he brings stuff up, like all of a sudden he's the big defender of Taiwan. Really? Since when our legacy media are defenders of Taiwan? They've been sucking up to China all along, and so has the liberal governments. Both Trudeau, although Trudeau later woke up a little bit once several scandals broke out. But Carney just continues on the same kind of thing, right? They're sucking up to China, and and Scott Reid is accusing the United States of America of sucking up to China. And, just to stay on the same page, uh, John Moore brought up an article from Robin Urbach. I think it was the Star. I'm not sure. I think it's the Star. But she had arguments like the goals of the war were undefined. Well, I don't know what she reads and what she watches, but the goals of the war were defined several times by Donald Trump and his administration. That doesn't mean that I support that kind of stuff, but they were defined. there's a lot of other stuff going on in the background as well, as far as the war comes. So this constant slamming uh, of Donald Trump, to me, it's like maybe the guy is right 20% of the time, or even 10% of the time. You can't just continuously dismiss that kind of thing. You got to step back a little bit, and a little bit of sober assessment would be in order. But no, he can't help himself, Scott Reid. He just can't help himself. He just continues to foam at the mouth, and it just comes out of him naturally. It's actually quite amazing to watch. I don't know how this guy got to the position of influence that he's got right now with the media, but he's everywhere, on CTV and on the radio all the time. So, assuming that he's right about some things, right? This whole thing drowns in the onslaught of this hatred and this rhetoric. So he's missing the point. He's not making an argument here, because he can't hear his position of the things that he could be right on. It's all assumptions and lies, basically, what he's talking about. Some sort of a mental illness or something like that. So the worst thing about it is that they continue to undermine the credibility of Canadian media. So that's the damage that's really being done by people like Scott Reid. There's no credibility to the Canadian media anymore, because they continue to say the same things over and over and over again. They hate Donald Trump. Whoop-de-doo. That's my take on it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and so long.